This is important stuff, and I want to thank so many of my staff members have followed me from one of these meetings to another. They work so hard for you at City Hall all day long, and then they come here to make sure that we get direct answers to your questions, or if you have a specific issue that you need to be dealt with, that we connect you with the right person on the staff that can help you deal with that issue. Here primarily to talk budget tonight, but obviously you're always free to talk about anything you need to talk about, and I'm happy to be here to listen. If you are on my staff, if you would please just stand up and wave to everybody to show them how many of you guys show up for these meetings. So I appreciate them very much. Okay, well, I thought I would kick things off. Somebody already noticed that we had a fun photo of Rex up here, our sort of unofficial mascot for the city. He's that orange dinosaur over at Beach and Peach. We've sort of used him as the mascot for I Dig Jax, for all of our projects that are going on around the city. And everybody loves Rex, everybody loves dinosaurs, but you know what? We also do not want to get stuck in the distant past like our prehistoric pals here. I'm all about moving this city forward, and that's why I'm here tonight to talk about our city budget. They say that a budget is a moral document. So let me share with you our values behind this budget, starting with our core function of public safety. More than half of every tax dollar in our city goes to police, fire, and rescue. As you can see, we allocate the rest to things like infrastructure, your streets, your resurfacing sidewalks, etc., health, education, and so on. So how do we compare with other Florida cities? As you can see, our public safety spending on a per capita basis is really not out of line with that of other major Florida cities. We spend about $1,000 per person per year on public safety. However, as a total percentage of the overall budget, in Tampa and Orlando, they spend closer to 20%. In Miami, it's about 35%. In Jacksonville, for every $2 we spend in the general fund, $1 goes to public safety. And we choose to invest in our first responders because when a crisis hits, seconds matter and lives are at stake. We also, and I know y'all know this, but we also have more than 840 square miles to cover, hundreds more than any other Florida city. And don't forget that we struck a historic deal for police and fire personnel, including pensions for new hires this year. They had gone away from that under the previous administration, and police and fire came to me and said, we can't recruit under this scenario. People are leaving the department, going to places where they have a defined pension. So we brought it back. It's expensive, but we felt it was necessary if we were going to have the best public safety we could have. And obviously, we want to keep our first responders safe as well. So I want you to take a look at this slide. This reaffirms something that I have said over and over again. In Jacksonville, we run a lean budget, regardless of what you may hear. We run a very lean budget. Our overall city budget per resident is among the lowest in the state. I'm not bragging about that, but that's just the truth. And we're doing it with the lowest property tax rate of any major city in Florida by far. Despite being efficient and the city with the lowest tax rate in Florida, you may have heard that some on the city council want to cut property taxes. They want to cut the lean budget. Okay, we'll talk about that. I'm here for everybody. I'm all in. The other night they did vote to keep our millage rate flat, but they'll come back for another vote on September 23rd. It was sort of a prequel to what we're going to see next week. It was a stalemate, probably still looking like it's going to be a stalemate. We'll see what happens. But we have to get a budget passed this week. So let me say a few words about the millage rate. This issue arose during questioning at my last town hall meeting where citizens requested a brief explanation of what the millage rate actually is. So think of the millage rate as the price we all chip in for every $1,000 of our home's taxable value to keep the city running. So it's what pays for everyday things we count on, like police and fire and rescue and parks and libraries and street repairs and things like that. So we all pitch in for that. And each year, the city council sets that rate to match the services in the budget. Given that we as a city already pay the lowest rate in the state, even a small change, as currently proposed by the council, can add up to a big cutback for what we can deliver in services to our community. So let's talk about the latest trends in home values. In Jacksonville, while I know housing prices went way up, we're looking now at housing rates or housing cost values that may start and are already starting in some cases to go down. So that may affect what we're able to collect in the future, which means we're connecting this to services. Over the past 2 years, in other words, if the goal of cutting the millage is to provide tax relief, the market is already doing that to some extent, or will do that. Probably have not seen that yet. But I'm talking about the compound effect of taking down the already very low millage rate. It would cost us $15 million in what we would be able to provide in city services this year. And it would put about $1.50 into your pocket on average. If you have a home with a homestead exemption, you get about $1.50 a month for the year. So that's not too much to, what could you buy for $1.50 right now? I'm not sure, not too much. Reducing the millage rate on top of declining property values would be poorly timed and expensive. When the Finance Committee suggested this reduction, I don't know whether they considered the impact of all this. So if they had, they would have realized that the revenue loss could far surpass the $14 million shortfall now expected. It adds up to more than $77 million over the next 5 years, considering the impact from compounding. And I have said to them, what's next year? Everybody know what next year is? Next year's an election year. You think they're not going to be under greater pressure from Tallahassee to drop those taxes more next year? Sure they will. This blow would hit at a time when food, health, and housing affordability are major concerns for our residents, who rightfully expect some relief from their city government. The currently proposed property tax cut or millage rate cut will result in the average homeowner saving, as I said, a little more than $1 a month. It's about 5 cents a day. It does nothing for the roughly half of the people in our city who don't own a home, who rent. So the cut City Council is fussing over right now, what we're talking about in terms of things that have been cut from the budget, are less than 1% of the overall budget. That's not belt tightening. It risks compromising public safety and essential city services in the future, and it's just a gimmick that does nothing to address the affordability crisis that is top of mind for most residents in our city. And we're going to show you in economic terms what all of this, what we get in return on investment for the programs that are being cut, and what we're really dealing with in this situation. As I mentioned earlier, the millage rate cut that about half of the council wants to translates to about 5 cents a day for an average homeowner. Translates to $5 a day for a corporate landlord. It favors the people at the very top who are least in need of a tax break like this. But look at that tax break, what it costs the city collectively. Fewer affordable homes, that's what's been cut to allow for this tax break. More homeless, hungrier senior citizens, overcrowded emergency rooms, sicker adults, and all this adds up to lost economic opportunity. Here's the reality. We are the fastest growing city in the state of Florida. Hopefully, as you're seeing all the cranes in the air and businesses choosing to expand in Jacksonville, you can see that in economic development terms, momentum is on our side, and that's a good thing. We're handling it well so far. We got to continue to handle it well, or we don't want to tip into not having a good quality of life for our citizens. People from across the country and around the world are choosing our area to make home. So just look at this slide. It took Jacksonville 50 years to grow by 500,000 people from the time of our consolidation to present day. At the current rate of growth, the next 500,000 will be added in half that time, between now and 2050. It's a lot of people. Growth brings new jobs and businesses and opportunities. However, the data indicates that without investment in our people, we will remain a tale of two cities, with parts of our city benefiting from this growth, while others fall increasingly behind. So look at how long our residents live. Did you know that as a city, our average life expectancy is 2 years lower than the state and national averages? On average, residents around Fort Caroline Middle School can expect to live to be 78. This looks out of order, Parvez. Are you sure this is correct? I'm not seeing the other. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, okay. Okay, yep, I don't know what happened to my slides, but they came out of order. In College Garden near UF Health downtown, the median life expectancy is just 62. A good 15 years shorter than folks in your neighborhood, but an astonishing 25 years shorter than those living in the Loretto neighborhood near Mandarin, where on average folks are expected to live to be 87. Because when we invest with purpose, we don't just balance ledgers, we add years to life and life to years, and we also supercharge our economy. Tonight I'm going to highlight 3 investments that the Finance Committee cut or reduced. I'm asking for your help to convince them to put those back in the budget. Our budget is a budget for the people. Our proposals for affordable housing, addressing hunger, and access to health care are not going to solve every problem, for sure, but they are lifelines to those who need and receive assistance. They help thousands of people move from just surviving to thriving. For the rest of us, it means economic benefit that comes from keeping our citizens healthy and in their homes. So let's start with affordable housing and homelessness. Now, we've all heard about the cost of housing. When a family spends more than 30% of their income on housing-related costs, that family is considered cost-burdened. In 10 of our 14 council districts, the housing cost burden exceeds the national average. That should move us from debate to action. I've proposed nearly $12 million for affordable housing and homelessness prevention in the budget. The Finance Committee cut $7.8 million of that, which includes all of our local funding for making housing more affordable. These initiatives were a continuation of pilot programs that have a proven track record for success. So I want you to understand what we're trying to do with these programs. We know we can't solve that problem for everybody, but when there's a problem that the private sector doesn't seem to want to be able to solve, I think it's incumbent upon us to try to create a model that they can then go and follow. So what we're trying to show is proof of concept here, so the private sector will invest, and we're already seeing a willingness to do that. So that's what's behind these. This isn't going to be some big massive program. This is just a pilot program. So here's what these projects would accomplish in year 1. We would build 60 additional affordable homes. We would help 85 working families buy their first home. We would keep 80 families in their homes with eviction diversion programs, and we would move hundreds more into transitional housing. The idea is to keep at-risk families from falling into homelessness. And when a family can afford a safe home, kids are healthier, work is steadier, and neighborhoods are stronger. Doing all that, in my mind, is the right thing to do. But it is also the economic imperative. These programs, which we hope the full City Council will restore, would provide an economic benefit of more than $30 million in the first year, a return on investment, an ROI, of more than 300%. So if the moral reasons for keeping families housed don't persuade our City Council, then I hope the economic reasons can move the needle. Now, access to food. This is a quiet emergency in plain sight. Nearly 1 in 5 of our neighbors cannot reliably afford groceries, even before you factor in inflation. 1 in 5. Hunger in our community is so widespread that in 9 of 14 City Council districts, they clock in above the national average. Hunger is also expensive. It adds thousands in healthcare costs per person per year. Every missed meal weakens a household and slows our local economy. We need to treat this like smart infrastructure. Invest $1 now to prevent an ER visit later. That's why my budget included $2.21 million for Meals on Wheels to support 2,000 older adults. The Finance Committee cut and then only partially restored that funding, and we need the full funding restored because rising inflation is only going to exacerbate that problem. We receive an amazing return on investment for this Meals on Wheels program, about $4.8 million in reduced healthcare spending each year. That's roughly 100% return on investment. And it gives our homebound seniors some dignity, which I think, we all want. So I would love for us to be a city where no seniors or kids are going hungry, and no working family has to choose between groceries and the light bill. Finally, access to health care. You've tried to book a doctor's appointment. I know you've seen the waits. Our data confirms what families live through every day. Jacksonville has fewer primary care physicians and pediatricians than Orlando, Tampa, and Miami. I don't know if you've looked at those numbers, but our ratio of physicians to children, the pediatricians to children, is just dismal. And so our primary care numbers are also not fantastic. Primary care is not expensive. So if we can connect people to these services, it's going to save us a lot of money on the back end when they don't get a chronic disease or they don't end up in the ER. Does that make sense? Okay. In 10 of our 14 council districts, the number of primary care physicians per resident is worse than in our Florida peer cities. When primary care is out of reach, as I said, people turn to the ER and preventable conditions become chronic. The human cost is heavy and the economic cost is real. That's why I've called for an investment in our telehealth program. This is for our uninsured population through HealthLink Jax and primary care access through Jax Care Connect. Now, Jax Care Connect was actually created by the city council after a critical quality of life survey came back with all the things that we're doing, saying that we should do all these things. And they've worked really well in pilot. I mean, really well. So we want to continue to make sure that we're investing in that HealthLink Jax program because it saves us money. The Finance Committee cut these programs and restored some, but not all. And as thousands of our neighbors are likely to be pushed out of Affordable Care Act plans or Medicaid because of the bill Congress just passed, we really need this to go. In beginning of 2027, the way the bill was written, the Congressional Budget Office is telling us that between 16 and 17 million people will be losing their health care. So imagine what burden that's going to put on our places that deal with our underserved community. It's going to be incredible. We need to plan for that. That'll translate to about 30 to 50,000 people here in Jacksonville because we never expanded Medicaid here in Florida. These small investments really do pay off in reduced emergency room visits and productivity gains. The investment from these two programs has a return of approximately 248%. Primary care is civic infrastructure. It keeps families healthy, businesses productive, and our safety net strong. So let me close with a simple truth here. A responsible budget doesn't just fund police and fire, important as that is. A responsible budget opens doors to a set of house keys, a stocked pantry, and a doctor's visit on time. These investments pay for themselves, and then some, and then some. So if you want to dive deeper into some of the data behind tonight's presentation, visit our new data tank at stateofjax.org, which incidentally the Finance Committee also cut from our proposed budget. But we're going to keep on finding ways to fund that. Hiding data from people is just not a recipe for success. If you've ever owned a business, you need to know what you're spending your money on. You need to know if it works. Am I throwing money down a hole, or am I investing in something that's actually providing me with a return? We have to do that too. And these numbers are very, very helpful to us. My budget goals are simple, and they're common sense. Safer streets, stronger neighborhoods, and a city where talent meets affordability. Jacksonville is on the move, and we have to decide whether our momentum is going to lead to shared prosperity or only benefit a handful of well-connected individuals. And if you remember, when I was running for this office, I said, I want this to be a city that works for everybody. I've already heard from a couple of you tonight, things aren't working. I want to take those problems and find a way to make sure that it is working for everybody. And I think this is a way forward. So I'm hoping we can invest in our people and our future as a city, and I'm ready for your questions and your partnership as well. Thank you very much. Now, what I'd love for you to do is come down. You don't have to stand in a long line. I think if you see the lines getting long, you don't want to miss out. You can get in a line. But I'd say just come down to this microphone, if you will, and ask whatever question you have. Thank you, Bri. And we'll make sure we get your questions answered or get you connected to somebody who can answer them. Somebody has to be first. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Venetia Chambers. I do live right around the corner off of Maryland Boulevard.
Well, I'm glad we can make this convenient for you.
Yes, thank you. I did have to leave work a little early, but nonetheless. So I'm a millennial. I'm also a real estate broker for the state of Florida, and I also now am in wealth management with Bank of America. One of the reasons why I had to transition is because the market, as you've seen, has just become a lot. And I just don't have it in me to tell people, yeah, buy that house for $387,000 at a 9% interest rate. I just couldn't. But the other side of that is for people like myself who were able to purchase, but purchased in previously enjoyed homes that are now going through that time in which they're needing to have renovations to things like the plumbing and the sewer lines. There's nothing in the budget anywhere or where people can have assistance with those types of repairs. If you have a mortgage right now, everyone I know, everyone who I've sold a house to in the not too distant past, all of our mortgages are over $2,000. My neighbor, who's been in her house since 1973, she told me very quaintly her mortgage was $400, and I could only wish for something like that. So does the city have any plans for any type of a program that can assist people who do need to replace that outdated infrastructure for their homes, whether it be plumbing, whether it be sewer lines, or even the electrical lines? There are things that need to be addressed that they just, quite frankly, don't have the budget for after we purchase at these exorbitant amounts.
I think JEA may have a program for that. Do you guys have something you could tell her about?
We have rebates available, but we have energy efficiencies, and there is for elderly folks, there's Elder Source, there's Builder's Care. We don't go into the homes and replace wires, but we are working on a septic to sewer replacement in different areas that are affecting the environment. That is ongoing.
Yeah, I know about the program for the elderly. And I figured that too, because there are some cities that do have grants that will help with people who can't afford to change them on their own and maybe do some type of rebate. But a lot of those things, like I think the quote for my pipes is $15,000, and that's just for the water lines. That's not even for the sewer,
The UTIP program, I can get you a little bit of information if you're interested.
Definitely. Thank you.
And, I'm going to have Josh talk a little bit, too, about the programs that we have. We did have a program for roof replacements, but that filled up in about 25 seconds, and we didn't have too much money in that to begin with. But, Josh, why don't you come up and talk a little bit about what is...
Thank you, Mayor. Joshua...
Affordable Housing Director, by the way.
Affordable Housing Director, City of Jacksonville, the first in our history, which shows some of our housing problems. We have a couple of programs in the housing division that does limited and emergency repair. So we're actually putting, we have $3 million in the program this year. It's through our federal and state dollars. That goes towards up to $50,000 on the limited repair for home repairs, whether you need a new bathroom, kitchen, floors, insulation in your walls, etc. We have a UTIP program in the housing division too that helps with piping and sewer replacements, especially for new homeowners. If you're buying a home that has well and you want to get on the city sewer system, we have a program that can help that transition. Again, $50,000, no cost to you. It's a forgivable loan basically, as long as you stay in your home over a period of time. After that, you don't pay it back. We also have an emergency repair program, so that helps cover roofs, that helps cover, a fire damage, other things like that, that we can provide funding for. And then we did have a roof program that was cut. It wasn't cut, it was just lightly funded in last year's budget. We did not pursue it this year because the council made it clear that they did not want that program back. So what we're doing is we're actually funding through Builder's Care a program for roofs. We're putting $750,000, and they're going to be able to do about 4 or 5 roofs a week. And we're actually about to RFP that out right now. Well, it's already been RFP'd. We're about to announce that program here in the next week or two. They will basically, we'll take a waiting list or we'll take applications, we'll give it to them, and like I said, they'll work on 4 or 5 roofs a week, and that is also through our federal and state dollars. So we do have some repair and rehab programs within the housing division. I can give you my card. We can get you Alex, who's on our team, his information because he runs the program, and see what we can do to help.
Thank you, Josh. Josh has been so helpful in these meetings because he's done so much. This has become a passion project for him because, as you know, our residents said in a recent survey that affordable housing has surpassed crime as their #1 concern. So we have tried to focus heavily on trying to provide more affordable housing. We have between 5,000 and 6,000 affordable units that are coming online over the next year. Over 6,000? Over 6,000 over the next year. And we've focused very heavily on trying to create more inventory because that's really the key, right? That sort of attacks those twin crises of affordable housing and homelessness. If you can provide more inventory, then you can help that situation out. But we understand that's a pain point for a lot of people, and we're trying our best to make sure we can increase that inventory. So I'm sure, Josh, we will probably call on you again tonight. A lot of people have had a lot of affordable housing questions. But anybody else want to come and ask a question? Well, good evening. How are you?
Hello. I'm Terry Bork. I have a question. Recently, Florida's CFO was criticizing our taxes as being overburdened, and you had said that they did not supply the math. Have they supplied the math yet?
There's no math.
Okay. Has anyone made a public record request?
Listen.
Would you like me to?
Sure. You're very good at that, so I think that would be great. No, my commentary on the, I mean, literally it was, here's how many people you have, here's how many people you've added, here's how much money you spent in the budget, or how much money you brought in over the last 5 years. So it was an analysis of the 3 years previously under the previous administration and then the 2 years of ours. And as you know, the math is completely different because of COVID and everything else. But at the end of the day, it was basically like 2 lines, and then, so therefore you should cut $200 million from the budget. And we all went, we spend almost every single dollar of our property taxes on police and fire alone. It barely covers police and fire. We would be providing no services. We'd be cutting back our departments. When I say departments, I mean the services that our departments provide by at least 20%. I mean, it would be insane. And you think you're complaining now about not getting your potholes done. I mean, it was disappointing to me just because I felt like, at least tell me, you know, what we've done or what we could do. And there was none of that. It's been sort of a tour de force of just cut. So I want to point out that our police and fire unions and our civic council, which is made up of civic leaders from all around the city, and, you know, citizens, business leaders, philanthropic leaders, they have all come out publicly, which is very unusual. There's usually a lot of private discussion that happens around these things. They've all come out publicly and said, please do not cut this millage rate. It is already to the bone. We are barely covering what we have now. You've got pension costs coming up. You've got raises for police officers coming up. You've got 17,000 people moving into this city, and you're not providing enough services as it is. Please don't cut this. And we're growing, and we have momentum. So the last thing you want to do when you have momentum as a city is start to chop everything down. So I guess I'm going to let you finish. But my point about the millage rate is, you know, the whole argument. What did you say earlier today? All hat, no cattle. Is that what you said? I mean, there's no argument there for Jacksonville. I can see going to one of these. That's why I showed you the numbers. You go to one of those other cities where they've constantly bumped up against what they can do. We're not even close to what we're allowed to do for millage here. Not even close, and we haven't tried to. We haven't tried to raise taxes one time. We've simply said, we'll continue to keep our spending flat, but please don't cut them further because it's only going to give people a buck in their pocket and it's not going to really help anybody. So that's the argument. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, just one, was it in the form of a financial audit? You know,
Yes.
the type of thing that...
Yes.
So they sign it as an audit, actually?
Well, yes, so just so you know, we do an independent audit with many of these same auditors every year. We have an outside audit. We had a Jacksonville Doge team that audited, and now we have the state coming in to audit. But let me tell you something. Our rating agencies, our bonding agencies, have given us a AA plus or a AA rating all the way down the line because we have been so fiscally responsible. So I'm just, you know, I am all, that's why I do these meetings. I'm all for suggestions. When he came in with his team, I said, listen, if you have some good suggestions for us, we're happy to take them. He wouldn't even meet with me. You know, but we've opened our books and we're happy to do it because we keep a really strong financial statement there. And I feel very good about what they've seen, what they've been in there. The only thing that I have seen him even talk about has been my what is the thing called? At the airport. The protobox. The protobox at the airport. At every airport in the country, the mayor greets people when they come into the airport, either on a monitor or over the loudspeaker. We had a local, woman-owned Jacksonville small and emerging business that came to us and said, "We've created this prototype. We want to share it around the country. We'd love for you guys to debut it as the technology hub in Jacksonville." And so and people love it. But it's the one thing they keep going back to. She spent, $50,000 or whatever it was on a proto box. Okay. I don't think if that's your example of government waste, I think we're probably doing okay. But we'll see.
Okay. I'll make
But
that
please
public record
go
request.
right ahead. I'd love to see
I'll
that.
let you know
As soon as you came up, I thought, okay, he's gonna request some records. I'm glad. Very good. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Come on up. Hi. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Thank you so much for coming to our neighborhood to
Thank
talk
you.
to us.
Of course.
Because I feel like the people are really getting the short shift from being included in their government and speaking out about what our needs are and how we want to see our tax dollars spent. I wanted to ask you a couple of things. First of all, your presentation was really great, and some of the illustrations really showed where we are falling behind nationally regarding other cities in our state and the statewide average. But sorry, I might feel like I'm talking too close to
you're really
that.
not. You're
Okay.
You're good.
Seeing some of those images of our city, it's very clear like where the river is and how the west side of our city and the east side of our city are drastically different as far as what the needs are. And I wanted to ask you, why is that? I know there's been a lot of talk about redlining in our community and how we are putting things in places, putting things like a morgue in black neighborhoods who's already had their property values just, it's really, it's horrible. Those families can't, they're not saving any money and building wealth in their homes, thereby the property taxes that fund the schools, so the schools aren't getting, and it's just, it has a horrible effect down the line. So I wanted to talk to you about how are we equalizing that?
Yeah.
And then I have a couple of other questions.
So one of the things that we did when we came into office, because I agree with you, there's been very little investment in many neighborhoods. So we went and we looked at the most disinvested neighborhoods in the city. And we went into the capital improvement plan where it's easy to put things into the capital improvement plan, which is what we spend money on to go out and do projects for different neighborhoods. But what would seem to continually happen is those projects in those neighborhoods would get pushed down over and over again. So we moved all those projects to the top of the list. So the most disinvested neighborhoods are now getting services first because they haven't for so long. Redlining was a very real thing. It still exists in other forms. And if we're going to really have a city that works for everybody, we've got to make sure that we truly have a city that works for everybody. That's not showing favoritism. That is balancing the services for everybody in your city to be the same, to be equal. Yeah. And so we're very committed to that. But look, it's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. We've worked hard to increase the pace at which we're removing the septic tanks that are a problem. I know that's been a big issue for years. But those are some of the things that we're trying to do. In addition to just making sure that we are listening to people in terms of what they need in those neighborhoods. That's why we do these over and over again, so that we can hear what the needs are.
Okay, that brings me to another question: are you familiar with a people's budget?
Yes.
Okay, so like right now, how it works is that you and your office devise a budget, and then the city council, goes and makes amendments to it, and then approves it. But where are the people in that equation? Because I have been present at some presentations from some organizations, some teach-ins, some learning, and like right now, I mean, the people want housing, the people want education, the people want healthcare, the people want green spaces, the people want their septic tanks not overflowing.
Then you got to vote for the people who are willing to do that for you.
Yeah, that's great, and for sure, like I voted for you, right? But we need more community involvement in devising a budget. You know, almost 40% of the budget goes to JSO, and I understand the need for a sheriff's office, right? But investing in those things that I just mentioned make communities stronger, make communities safer, and it's an investment in the people. And so, as such, the people are really getting left out of this. We go to city council, we talk about what our needs are, but it's like talking to, I mean, just like a
Well, let me
blank
just say
screen.
this. Before every budget, we have gone out and done a series of these meetings. Before we ever devise a budget, when we're in our process of putting into the pot what we want, right? With all the money, all that big money that we have left over, in our budget. We incorporated just about everything we heard from those meetings. We incorporated affordable housing money. We incorporated meals for seniors. We incorporated the telehealth program. We incorporated all those things that people told us we really want those, and we also increased our budget dramatically for things like filling potholes, because people said we need this stuff done faster. So we put a lot more into that. That, to me, our budget was a people's budget. Now, as the council is very happy to remind me all the time, the mayor proposes and the council disposes. So in our consolidated government, we have a strong mayor form of government. I get to propose the budget. I lead the executive wing of the administration, but Congress has the purse strings. The council has the purse strings. Sometimes it feels like Congress. No, I love them all, truly. But they get to decide what stays and what goes, ultimately. And you guys get to show up at meetings and tell them what you want.
Yeah.
We heard this last week when everybody showed up to talk against the millage rate and not one of them budged. It is. So many decisions are made for different reasons beyond what the public actually is saying that they want. But that's why I say to you, I have learned in every one of these meetings that there's a number of things people don't necessarily connect when it comes to the civic process. You need to know who your council person is. You need to know who your school board representative is. You need to know who your representative in Tallahassee is. And you need to bug the crud out of those people until they do what you want them to do.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then you got to show up when it's time to vote, and you got to vote for somebody who will. And that's really what it comes down to. I mean, it is always amazing to me how people will tell us repeatedly in these meetings, and listen, I've had people that stand up, people have no problem disagreeing with me. This lady right here that's sitting down here, she's getting ready to tear me up in just a second. No, I'm not making fun of you. I'm just saying I enjoy hearing from people who have constructive criticism. I really do. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that they continue to vote for the same people over and over again who are not giving them what they want. And I don't understand really why people don't show up to vote if they're frustrated. Why don't you show up to vote? I don't understand. I think we had 26% of the people that showed up to vote in the last election.
Yeah, our voting rate is abysmal, and as long as we still have voting rights, which might not be for long, it's really important for people to get out and organize with. There's plenty of community organizations to get out there, to get active, to meet your neighbors, to do good work. I just, when I see the listing of like this is how much Parks and Rec gets, this is how much the library gets, this is how much JSO gets, it's insane. And I've watched these budget hearings through the city council where they have someone from the library come up and they are nickel and diming them like, well, why do you need that many pencils? Why do you need this? And they do that to every thing, but when it's time for JSO, they're just like, "Oh yeah, way to go." But
well, listen, I'm just going to defend.
I'm just going to finish my sentence.
Okay, go ahead.
librarians aren't out there murdering community members. Librarians aren't
Okay.
out there brutalizing people.
Okay.
And so we really need to take a look at that and invest into the people in our community, because that's going to make us stronger and safer. And
I'm
a
going to
better
say one
Jacksonville.
more thing about that,
Yeah.
and that is that every one of these town hall meetings that I've gone to, I know your feelings. I've heard people with your feelings. I understand that there are instances that upset you, and I get that. It makes perfect sense to me, but overwhelmingly, people ask for more police and fire in their neighborhoods. They ask for more protection. They ask for more public safety. And the huge majority of our police officers and firefighters are just, they're giving everything they got every day to make sure that our city's safer.
And
So-
I'm not doubting that.
Yeah.
But
But it's a huge,
110%.
city, and it also, I mean, it's an important, it is the number one job I have as mayor, to make sure that our citizens are safe.
Yeah, and the studies have shown that investing in the community
Which
makes
I am
people
trying-
safer.
which I'm trying to do,
And so,
which
like,
I'm
we
trying to
need
do.
more money for
Okay,
community.
okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you very much, appreciate you. Oh, let me help, will you help her? She's trying to get that mic down, honey. There you go.
Yes. My name is Candace Knudsen, a single person in the elderly division. I understand the need for paying more for the waste management and all that stuff, but you have done an unconscionable increase from where it was to now $324 a year. And this is the form that they have for a low-income exemption program. Even if I'd be willing to pay some, but not $324 a year. On this form, they include your Social Security income. And if you don't make a lot of money, none of that income would be taxable anyway. I could only earn gross income as a family of one, $23,475. That's all I can earn in a year to get any help from this. And if I work a part-time job, you're going to get half of that money or 3/4 of that money. And the Social Security will kick it over the limit, so this form is useless.
Okay.
So unless somebody changes the form or gives a thing that you could pay some, but not the entire thing, that's one thing.
I appreciate that, and we talked about this before I came up, and I hear you. I really do. I'm going to tell you how this got to this situation. So our ordinance code in the city of Jacksonville says that our fees for things like garbage have to match what it costs to provide the service. That's what the ordinance code said.
Right.
But for 15 years, our council decided to kick that can down the road because nobody wanted to be on record as raising a fee. So this year, I got to say, I got to give huge credit to the city council for saying, you know what, we've got to start addressing that problem. They raised it a little bit this year. They're going to raise it a little bit more. It has to match. Let me just finish. But we did carve out for people that are financially strapped. Now, I am certainly willing to see if there's any way that we can talk about the Social Security being left out of that number. I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. I don't know how it's all calculated. I'm sure somebody on my team probably does.
Planning Commission did this.
No, I don't think it was the Planning Commission. It wasn't the Planning Commission. This was simply, we are trying to right-size our fees where they should have been going up tiny little bits every year to keep up, and they didn't do it. And now everybody's going, wait, what happened? Well, what happened is we finally exercised a little responsibility in terms of our fee structure and started to step it up. But we did want to carve out a space for people that didn't make enough money to pay. So what I want you to do, if you would, is I want you to give your information to Melissa Ross right here next to you, that was sitting right next to where you were. And I'm gonna go and talk with Councilman Carlucci, who's the one that actually proposed that carve out, and see what we can figure out. Okay? Yes, sir.
What about exempting Social Security from
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what the rules are around that. But I am happy to look into that for you. Absolutely happy to do that. Okay? Who's next? Come on up.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Candace as well.
Hey, Candace.
Kind of weird. Thank you for taking the time out to meet with us. I have just some questions. I'm a renter in the area. I pretty much grew up in this area. And a lot of people in this area and other parts of Jacksonville can't afford the rent. And I constantly see new apartments being built, but I'm priced out of them.
Yeah.
Like there's beautiful apartments at the base of the Matthews Bridge as you cross over it every day. I looked at them, insane amount for rent. Is there any plan in your budget for people who can't afford rent? Like we don't need.
Yes, that's exactly what these plans that Josh was just talking about, that we propose putting local money into affordable housing. Some of that is to create more inventory, a fund. It's tough for developers to be able to afford that. To build and really only be able to get a certain amount is tough for them. So we're trying to make it work, with their capital stack, right? That money got cut. And so we can't do any more than what we had the money to do. But we are trying desperately to increase mostly workforce housing, which is housing that people that are, teachers or hospitality workers or, and then, of course, we're also looking to, at some point, try to create, if we can get anybody interested in doing it, an affordable housing trust fund that would help us to fund affordable housing on an ongoing basis. It's a real tough environment for it right now, is all I'm saying. But we are working every day and we've gone to the private sector. We had a plan last year where we proposed $10 million loan from the city, a loan which we would have gotten back. And we had $30 million lined up from the private sector to match, to put into that pot, which would eventually have become, what was the total number that would have become, Josh? I forgot. It would have been like 190.
Private, $10 million from the city, $120 million.
120 million. 120 million over 20 years. And and that would have helped us go a long way down the road to success on that. We didn't make that up. We got that from other communities that have done it successfully, and it just didn't fly. So these are things we're trying to address because we got to increase the inventory of homes that are affordable. And I'm not talking about just the Section 8 homes. I'm talking about homes that, just normal, just if you're a regular working person, you should be able to afford to live in a house, right? Yeah.
What about, I'm also really curious as to what your stance is on, I haven't been down the street in months, but I noticed across the street from the school there's like JWB townhouses, and they have properties everywhere, and they're, from what I understand and just from people who have had dealings with them and just my own kind of investigation, is that they're not easy to deal with as far as even getting a home. They market themselves, I feel like, as for people who maybe can't afford, but a lot of times the homes are not well rebuilt. Like if it's a remodel, it's not well rebuilt, the quality is poor, and the rent doesn't really match what's in the neighborhood, so to speak. And I just see that they're buying up so many properties where in reality those are properties that people could own homes, but because the housing market is the way it is, we can't afford to buy a home.
Well, I haven't heard that. I haven't heard any of that, but I do know they have a program now for people that if they're renting, they can get some sort of assistance to a down payment assistance if they want to buy a house.
And it doesn't have to be a JWB house.
Yeah, it could be any house. So that is a new program that they just put out, but I don't know. I haven't heard the things that you're telling me.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But I'll take that feedback back to them.
All right. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Who's next? Come on up. Hi.
Hi, my name's Jay Anthus, and I live in District 2, which I just learned about a month ago. So at least I know now.
That's great. But see, you've learned something. That's awesome.
Okay, I really love seeing all the cranes. I love seeing the actual construction. I've been here for 25 years, and I've seen a whole lot of elevations, and they're beautiful in the paper and all that. but there never was construction, like the Laura Street Trio. Come on. How many decades does this thing go on?
Right.
But we're seeing it now, and it's beautiful. This town is really going to wake up, especially downtown and along the river. I think it's wonderful. I got a problem. I
knew there was going to be a butt in there someplace.
I don't know enough about it. Oh, and I also love the way you did the ticket thing and you shoved it right back at the council saying, yeah, we don't need any, do we?
Did I do that really? I don't know.
Oh, I smiled, let's put it that way. Anyway, the urban circulator, the Navi thing.
Yeah.
That's a ton of money.
It is.
And so was our monorail. That was a ton of money at the time. And it didn't work.
You know why?
Well, it
Because
didn't go anywhere.
we didn't invest in it. We never let it go anywhere.
Well, the Navi thing, you know, I saw the pictures. I went and looked at online, and it shows these Ford vans or whatever that are going to drive around on certain things independently without a driver. That's fine. But it's a ton of money. Does this town really need that? And could we do more social services or whatever with that money? That's a lot. And
Well,
I
this
just
is
don't see
JTA
it.
now. JTA is doing that program, and they are an independent agency, but we do have a large city, and they are trying to come up with solutions for that will help us to get around when we really don't have a whole lot of those, right? I mean, for a city of our size, obviously, you know, rail is going to be expensive, but we need to go there eventually,
Yeah, I was
and we'll
saying
get there eventually.
Light rail is the way to go.
Yeah, no, it is, but not yet.
Okay.
You know, there are all kinds of proposals for that, but I will say, when the mayor of Atlanta came down here and met with us and saw that Navi system, immediately went back and recommended they do the same thing in Atlanta. Well, but here's the thing. I love being on the cutting edge of technology on things, of being a leader. That means you're going to have some hiccups. It means you're going to have some fits and starts sometimes. But I do think that ultimately, autonomous vehicles, and they're electric, so they don't put a lot of stuff in the air, autonomous vehicles, I think, are going to be a big thing. And I think if we can be on the cutting edge of that, it also helped us to attract a company named Hold On that is going to be creating those vehicles for the world all over the place. That's a $300 million economic assist for us. I think it's worth trying, and I do think that we have somebody in Nat Ford who has been extraordinarily successful in other places where he's been, and has always been a visionary, trying to be on the cutting edge. And I personally think, I know there's a great deal of disagreement about this. I personally think it's a good investment, and I think it's going to work out okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, how are you? What's your name?
Paul Morton.
Hi, Paul.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. I want to congratulate you on your leadership
Thank you.
in all phases, and appreciate your doing these meetings all over the community. And it's amazing to me that the domain that you have responsibility for runs from Talbot Islands to the west, Baldwin and so on, and it's a vast community we call Jacksonville.
It is.
Want to commend you on your recognition that Medicaid and other health budgets are being slashed, and ultimately the responsibility will fall on the shoulders of the city. And I do think the University of Florida will probably be the answer to a lot of the shortages when they show up. And there will be many people who will not be able to afford basic health care. One issue that I'm interested in is the parks.
The parks?
Yes. I feel sometimes like we're the proverbial dog that caught the car, because we have so many parks and lands preserved, but we don't have the budget to manage them as they should be.
You're right.
And so looking at other communities, they probably have the similar challenges, and that is the crumbs that are left over after you've done what people perceive to be the higher priorities, then you really don't have funding remaining to take care of and enhance one of our jewels, and that is Jacksonville is known as having more parks and more land committed to parks than anywhere in the country.
That's true. We have the largest urban park system in the country. We do.
Yeah,
Which is wonderful.
it is wonderful. And but we do need to spend money for restrooms and boat ramps and lighting and attendance and so on. And I just want to suggest that if there are a few crumbs laying around, that can be directed toward greater enhancement of that jewel that we're so proud of. And we speak about it, I think all of us, how much it means to have outdoors for...
Absolutely. I tell that to everybody, get outside. Get outside, especially these days. Get outside, touch some grass, breathe some air, stay off social media.
Yeah, nature is a healing element, and
indeed.
we need to...
I agree with everything you've said. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. Daryl Joseph, who's the head of our Parks Department, does an absolutely amazing job. Blue Cypress, which is not too far from here, is really been done beautifully, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
But you're right. I mean, it would be nice to have a dedicated source of funds for so many of these things, right? I guess that's one of the reasons I love to have these discussions, because it really, my question for everybody is always, we have to decide what kind of city we want, and obviously tax cuts poll well. Everybody would love to pay less taxes.
Sure.
But you got to drill down on what you're actually getting for that, and what you're losing with that, especially in a city that's held the line on taxes for so long. This is why you see these big organizations coming out and saying, "Hey, look, we've held the line on taxes. Please, we're already down to the bone here. We're not funding our parks. We're not funding our kids. We're not, we're so grateful that with our literacy program that Mayor Payton, former Mayor Payton, just gave us $1 million to make sure we could continue to go with our wonderful literacy program. Is Dr. Grass here from Kids Hope Alliance? That they've done. I mean, look, it's fantastic that the literacy programs have really increased the numbers of our literate kids, just tremendously, in the programs that we've had there. And so these are things we need investment in. These are investments in our people, to the woman's point that talked earlier, a more people-oriented focus to the budget. But you got to have money for that. And I think when you talk about asking everybody to collectively help a little bit so that we can make sure we have healthy seniors and kids that can read and all the things, is important. And I think especially as you look and see the Washington politics that keep getting drawn down to Jacksonville, which I really hate. We never used to do that here.
Right.
We never even used to know what people's parties were when they were in local government. It just wasn't a big deal. And it's supposed to be that way now. It's supposed to be nonpartisan. But these Washington-style, tactics get brought down to Jacksonville, and it hurts us. And what I try to explain to people, nobody wants to pay more taxes, but at the end of the day, in D.C., is that the government that you would trust more than your local government to make sure that your needs are getting met? I don't think so. We're the government closest to the people. So we need to make sure we are looking out for the needs of our people and making sure our business community understands that their investments in our people are really worthwhile. That's what we're trying to do here. And I think parks is a great example of that. It's wonderful to have those amenities, but if you can't get into any of them because they're... Now, I will say this, in the community benefit agreement with the Jaguars, which I know y'all love that stadium deal so much, but I'm telling you, it's going to benefit us big time in the long run. Fully funded. Those riverfront parks are fully funded. They're going to have all those amenities, and there's also a group that's been formed to raise money for those parks and to maintain those parks and all of that. So that's what we would love to have all over our city, right? To be able to have the restrooms and the security and the amenities and all the things that we want to be able to enjoy. So it's a big city. We'll hopefully get there, but people have to choose what their priorities are. And I appreciate you bringing that up. I agree with you. Parks are big.
The last thing I want to compliment you on is having a health physician advisor in your
Dr. Joshi, yes.
Yes, he's an amazing physician, and I believe Jacksonville is the only city that has that physician, and it just is evidence of your forward thinking, and I want to compliment you on
Well,
that.
thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. There's not a thing in the world that's more important to me outside of people's safety than if they can be healthy. Because if you can't be healthy, then it's just that nothing else really matters in your life if you can't be healthy. And I've certainly had my health challenges over the years. And I've seen a lot of people who haven't been able to afford to have the type of treatment that they deserve. And so if we can address that even on a small level with somebody like Dr. Joshi and Lynn Sherman, who are both just doing such a great job trying to connect people with the services we already have, it's fantastic. So thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Who's next? Nobody else has a question? You guys, come on. Okay. It's your one chance to beat up on me here for the next 6 months. You gotta come and take
My
your shot.
name's Kay Evans, and I do think Daryl Joseph is a wonderful Parks Director. But what can we do here, all of us, to help you with the budget?
Well,
contact our council
look,
person.
I can't promise you your words will be heeded, but what I can tell you is nothing will happen if you don't use your voice. And that's why I've been so grateful to see police and fire and see the civic council actually come out in public and not just privately make phone calls, but come out in public and say, hey, this is not right for our city. This will hurt public safety. Don't tell people it won't, because it will. That's what they're doing, and I think that's what I would ask from you all is make sure you call your city council person. Heck, I'd send a note or a call all of them if you can. Just tell them what you want, tell them what you expect, and then show up on Tuesday night and talk about what your priorities are. I mean, look, like I said, I can't promise you they're going to listen, but I can tell you that they're going to know you were there, and you're going to have a record you were there, and you're going to cause them to think. So
Okay, thank you.
I would really love that. Thank you very much.
You're doing a great job, and we're not here to beat up with you.
No,
We just-
it's okay.
We just want to talk.
No, I know. I appreciate it. It's
Also, the city council meeting next week is not starting at 5. It's starting at 3 p.m.
That is right. That's
And
right.
So
Starting at 3.
public commenting, from what I've been able to gather from a phone call to the council president's office, is public commenting is going to be somewhere in between 3 and 5 p.m., which really limits those
Yeah.
of us working people.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I know.
Well, I don't think I realized that. Usually, doesn't public comment normally come a little bit later?
It starts at 5.
Oh, it always is at the beginning. Okay. I thought as they went through every bill, they had to have public comment. Is that not true? Yes. Don't they have to have a little bit of public comment in every bill that comes up? Seems like they do that. No, not for third reading. I gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Hi.
Hello, I'm Latricia Howard. Hi, everyone. Really new to Jacksonville. I've relocated.
Yeah, where are you from?
Phoenix City, Alabama, War Eagle.
Okay. Don't beat up on her, Gator fans.
My son just graduated from University of Alabama, so we were house divided. Oh, yeah.
Go Knowles.
Well, I just wanted to share my story because in 2021, Mother's Day weekend, I decided to relocate. It was after COVID, 21 years in Alabama at Aflac. And so I traveled down. I was considering Jacksonville, Tampa, Jupiter Beach. And I just wanted to share that when I traveled and landed in downtown Jacksonville, it blew my mind away. And I said, this is where I'm going. I'm not going anywhere else. And I've been here ever since. Absolutely. So I can vouch for what you said about the people coming into the city and downtown Jacksonville really selling everyone to be here. I am one of those people.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you're here.
Yes.
Now,
and
what can we improve on?
You know what? Just being here, I've attended each and every one of these town halls because I want to be engaged and interacting. So hearing the people, I think is very inspiring to have you here listening to them, your leadership team here listening to the community. It speaks volume to your passion. And I also voted for you, by the way. I did.
Well, thank you. I'm liking you more every minute.
But it speaks volume to your leadership. So I commend you for doing so. And just hearing the people really telling you what's wrong and what's bothering them says a lot. So whatever we can do to encourage and support and all those good things, I'm fully behind you, fully behind the city. And I just want to tell you good job and keep up what you're doing.
Thank you. Welcome
Yeah,
to
it's
Jacksonville.
great.
That's wonderful. I
you
love
all.
that. Coming to all the town hall meetings. She's a glutton for punishment. No, we have fun at these meetings. We just, we talk frankly, and that's a good thing.
Hi, I'm Alexis Cummings. I felt like she was a great tone setter, so I was like, maybe I should say something now. So I can share my story too. I'm a native of Jacksonville, Florida. I went to college in Pensacola, and then after that, I spent 10 years in New York and then Los Angeles for 5, and I relocated back home to pursue my master's degree, and I needed to save money because I was spending $3,200 a month in rent in Los Angeles. I could afford it because I was working in corporate America. But looking at the price of apartments and things in Jacksonville, especially given this is where I'm from, I'm like, for $3,200, I can live in New York. Like, I wouldn't choose to be back home for that. I stay with my mom. I think the reason that I'm speaking, though, is because one, I don't really see a lot of millennials that are represented here, or Gen Z, Gen Alpha. I'm a millennial. And so I'm kind of standing here in solidarity because one of the biggest frustrations I've had since coming back home is the lack of urgency that I feel is present in this city. As someone who kind of came to adulthood in New York City, that is really what I embody. So I've even embedded myself within the city of Jacksonville. I volunteer with the JSAIL program. And a lot of the resistance that I meet with the programs and solutions that I'm offering as someone who's a corporate business development professional, a partnership strategist, it seems like the pushback I get is because of the political atmosphere here and the hesitancy as to whether city council will, agree with spending money in. And so as a solution-oriented person, I don't believe that money is the solution to every problem.
Absolutely.
My question is oriented around what other strategies exist, because as a millennial, I think we're historically known as being disengaged from the political system. This is the first time in my life I've ever attended a town hall.
I'm so glad you're here.
I've never really had like a huge investment in local politics because I was living in cities I wasn't from. But to be back in my hometown, it just hits different. So for me, it's more so like I hear the issue with how much money goes to public safety. I understand it's symptoms management. There's a lot of crime and things that are going to happen because of some of the community issues that she had spoke to earlier. And so for me, it's sort of like long-term strategy is we do have to resolve those issues because that is the underbelly of the crime and the public safety issues we're facing.
Absolutely.
If someone isn't hungry, they're not trying to break in your door. So it becomes a thing of like, I would love to see how do those numbers come down? Like, it shouldn't be every political cycle we're investing the same 50%. It shouldn't be the same need, I would think. But I just want to know more so beyond the budget, because it just seems like we're just far gone.
No, listen, I got to tell you, I mean, we're making progress now. We are finally starting to move as a city. And the reason you hear me harp on downtown so much, I know y'all hear me talk about downtown a lot. And the reason that I talk about downtown so much is I truly believe it is the key and the ignition to bringing in the type of revenue that we need in this city to invest in so many more things, especially in our neighborhoods that have been disinvested. Mm-hmm. I truly believe that is the key. Every city that has, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you the difference it made for Tampa when they finally got their riverfront going and their downtown going. I mean, it is the key. And so that's why you see so much focus and so much money and so much attention driven to downtown. But a lot of that is also we do a lot of recruiting of businesses. I'm getting ready to go back to London in a few weeks to talk to a bunch of fintech and medtech and other businesses we're trying to draw into Jacksonville. We're working with our business community to try to make sure that they understand the needs in the city and trying to create as many public-private partnerships as we can, because we know we can't do everything through city government, and we don't want to. We want our community to invest in our community, but I mean we are at an inflection point in Jacksonville where we are finally moving and we finally have momentum, and so that's why the money piece is important, because you can't put the brakes on everything you're trying to do to create that momentum. But we're also working on all kinds of partnerships to try to make the city work better for everybody.
Yeah, and I will say, as someone who grew up here, Jacksonville present day is a lot more desirable. Like, for me to be able to have transition from Los Angeles and be here and all the services and the places I like to go, for the most part, the sushi isn't that great. There's been a lot that I've been able to replicate from those experiences here, and so that's shown me like there's growth in the city. I think the sad part about it is who gets left behind.
Yeah.
Because my family is from the 32209 zip code. I did grow up in Arlington. We live in District 2 now. So I kind of escaped sort of, the roughness of it. But when I go back across the bridge to visit family, friends, they're in the same place I left them in. And that is very concerning to me.
It is to
I
me
made it
also.
out, but it's not a win if other people get left behind.
I agree with you.
But thank you.
We're working hard on that. I promise you. It is a big ship, and it takes time to turn it. But one of the things, I did not come into this office with an eye toward the next 2 or 3 years or 4 years. You've probably heard me say this, but I would love to have a second term to complete some of the things that we're doing. But at the end of the day, I have no interest in a political career beyond being the mayor of this city. I'm not going to do anything after this. So I'm all invested, all in to do what we're doing here. This is it, okay? Jacksonville is got to go this time. We cannot do 1 step forward and 2 steps back again. We've got to find a way forward, and I believe we're doing that. My view is, what's it going to be like for you, and what's it going to be like for your kids? My kids, I don't know how I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but my kids have just come into adulthood. Basically, they're young adults, and I desperately want them to have a Jacksonville that is everything that Jacksonville ought to be. I want them to enjoy living here. I don't want them to leave. And so everything that I'm working on now, we may not see the benefits of it in the next 2 or 3 years. Some of it we are. You see the cranes in the air. That stuff's going to continue. But some of the seeds that we're planting right now, you're going to see probably in 10, 15, 20 years if they all continue to germinate and work and we continue to water them a little bit. So my goal really is to just change the culture, where we become a culture of a unified city that wants to work together, that wants to solve problems together. And we're always going to be a city of neighborhoods. That's great. We're a very diverse city, and I love that. But we also should have a feeling of connection with one another. And I think that's the way I sort of want to wrap up here tonight, because of all the events of the last week. I just want to say that I don't think it's ever been more important than it is now to have these connections, to talk to each other, to have civil conversations, to, even when we disagree with each other, to sit and listen patiently and understand that not everybody's going to feel like we do. And that's what makes a great community. If we all felt exactly the same way about anything, we wouldn't learn anything. But the truth is, I just think we got to see each other's humanity better than we're doing right now. And so I'm grateful that you're here tonight, because I think this is a piece of that. I know, look, what is it? Is it 7th? What time is it? Yeah, it's 7:20. I mean, you guys, I'm sure some of you haven't had dinner yet. You're probably tired after a long day at work, and yet you decided to come spend an hour and a half here talking about our city and the issues that we can, create to make it better. And I think that's what we got to start doing with more people. We've got to get off of social media, got to get out of our houses, got to talk to people, even those that we don't agree with, and we got to respect each other a little bit more than we have seen. Or I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. But I want you to know that I love you all very much, and I'm grateful to be your mayor, and I'm grateful to have the time here with you tonight. So thank you for expressing all of your concerns. And if we didn't get to something you wanted to talk to tonight, please connect with one of our staff members and make sure we get your information, and we can make sure we try to handle it. And
You need to bring an umbrella Tuesday?
I don't know, Tim. Are they going to need an umbrella on Tuesday? You don't know? You don't know? I guess you're out. You're checked out. Okay. Oh, okay. You're good without an umbrella on Tuesday, apparently. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.